Hello and welcome to another video. So this week I'm doing a voiceover, this week and next week actually, because I am testing a new mic. I got a new headset, it has a microphone on it. We'll see how this goes. If you notice a distinct worsening of audio quality, definitely leave a comment down below because I do want to know. I think it sounds fine. We'll see. I'm experimenting a bit. So here we are with another plan with me this week for the week of January the 4th through the 10th. This is my first week back at work. So I wanted to have a spread that was a little very, very mildly academic. So I do use the bookish Happy Planner sticker book because I knew that I wanted to bring in some reading elements. My job has also shifted for these next few weeks, so I'm actually not teaching in a classroom presently. My students are all taking another class in this mini semester thing that my school has, and I do not teach for these 3 weeks. I'm planning upcoming courses, and so that means that this week I did a lot of research and planning. So I'm currently designing a course that was assigned to me for the last 3 weeks in the spring, and it is titled Scientific Discoveries and has a super vague course description in the course catalog, and I have been given free reign mostly to do whatever I want with it as long as it's sciencey enough that it can still count as a science credit, because that's the purpose of the course, at least for the students and their requirements. So this week, that's what I was working on mostly. Monday, I had to finish up some grading from the previous semester. Grades were due on Tuesday, so I was wrapping up some late work, some extra credit, that kind of thing, and then working on that course. And so it was kind of hard, honestly. So this is also the last week that we were teaching remotely. So the following week I'm back on campus, but for this week I was working from home. And I'm always a little less productive when I'm working at home. It's just harder to focus. There aren't people. There's not the flow of traffic in the hallways to help me know what time of day it is and where I am and who I am. And there's just not enough outside reference points for what I should be doing in a given day. So my productivity always suffers a little when I'm working from home. But last semester, I had classes, 1 or 2 a day, but I still had courses that I had to be at, and so there were places and commitments to structure my day so that I knew exactly what I had to do when, by when, where I had to be, etc. And I did not have that this week, and it was so hard because my sleeping schedule was a mess. I mean, not too bad. I've definitely woken up later in the afternoons than I did this week, but I definitely was not waking up on time. And it was just so unstructured because not only was I working from home, but I didn't have courses that I had to be at this week. I was just working on this project that I'm going to be working on for the next 2 weeks. So it was an interesting time. It was also really fun. So this week I spent a lot of time doing research on various scientific figures. I spent a lot of time reading a book that I think might be a companion to my course. I believe it's called How to Invent Everything by, I forget who it's by, but it is a really fun book, and it's nonfiction, but it has this overarching kind of world that it's being told in. So the premise of the book is that it was found by the author, not actually written by him, and it was left in a rock, and it's a guide for time travelers. So someone in the distant future has taken a time machine to the past, and their time machine broke. It broke before the technology arrived to fix it, and it's a guide on how to reinvent civilization most efficiently so that whoever is stranded can either live a comfortable life or maybe, depending on when they end up, come back home. And it's really fun because it talks about how these various technologies that we use in the modern day took years and years and years and years for humans to kind of stumble their way through trial and error into discovering them. But if you know how to do them, they're super easy. So things like the invention of the wheelbarrow, which took, I think, a few hundred years, if I'm remembering the book correctly. But the wheelbarrow itself is a super simple element once you know how to put it together and why it's useful. And so it goes through that. It goes through the most basic kinds of technology that a civilization needs, why they're important, and then how to put them together as efficiently as possible with the foreknowledge that they exist, right? Without having to do trial and error and experimentation over thousands of years of evolution in biology and culture. A lot of civilization would be so much easier to kind of jump straight to. And so that's what the book's about. It takes you through different types of farming technologies and the best crops to like foster and grow and cultivate for a small and budding civilization. It talks about things like language and science and like smithing and all kinds of things. And so it's really good. I like it. It's fun. And I think that we are probably going to read the book as part of the course and then probably try a few of the inventions that it recommends you do. For example, things like time. Depending on when in the past you land, time hasn't really been well defined or counted. You know, people aren't keeping time, but it tells you how to measure an exact second by building a particular kind of pendulum. And that's always going to be the same. So it's really fun. So that's what I spent most of this week working on. And as you can see here, as I have been talking about this week and some background of where I'm planning from, I put down some full boxes and have been leaning into a dark theme, like mostly black, but not completely monochromatic. There are little elements of color popping through and some of the flowers in the full boxes and some of the text in that quote box. And this was a very fun spread. It was fun to put together and it was fun to use, and I really, really like how it turned out. But things like the floating books and the lounging cat and dog and that armchair, or not even armchair, just like that soft chair at the bottom of Thursday, those are all there to lean in to the fact that I knew I was going to do a lot of reading and research this week. Other things I did included reading A Court of Mist and Fury. I am having such a good time with that book. It is probably going to be the first book I finish in 2021. I am almost 90% of the way through it at the time of this voiceover, which is on Sunday, and it's a good time, you all. I've already read it. I read it for the first time last January, and so it's like a super easy read, which I really needed because the How to Invent Everything book is very good, but it is more technical, and so it takes me a little longer to read it than a fiction book would, and it takes more energy to read than a reread. So I kind of spent this week balancing reading that book, How to Invent Everything, and reading A Court of Mist and Fury. And so when I got tired of reading the technical book, I take a break and like fly through a few pages of A Court of Mist and Fury and then go back, and that's basically what I did like all week. So that was a lot of fun. I also got a new reading chair this week, which was extra fun because my favorite kind of reading chair is one of those like half moon saucer style chairs, and I got the first one I've ever owned my freshman year in college for like $10 at a garage sale, and it's so comfy and I loved it so much. And it broke a few months ago and I was so sad because it was my favorite spot to read in the whole apartment. And so I have been missing a good reading chair. You know, like the couch is fine, but it doesn't have quite enough structure. Like eventually my back hurts on the couch if I'm reading for like long hours. And so I finally invested in a new saucer chair and I love it so much. So that also kind of made me read even more because now I had a new fun chair. It fits perfectly in the closet that I use as like a mini reading shrine with like my bookshelves and things like that in it. So it was perfect. So that's all I did this week. That's the big summary. I was reading and almost nothing else. Because that How to Invent Everything book, I need to finish it so that I can build lessons off of it and fit it into the goals of the course. And then there are a few other things I have to prep, but I managed to work through a broad structure and kind of routine that I want the course to follow. And so next week, my primary goal is actually building activities into the learning goals that I kind of figured out this week, if that makes sense. So then, because I wanted to add more color, like just a little more color to this spread, I did add these really little thin, like washi or header strips to every single day in this zigzagging pattern. And I really like the pop of color that it brings to the page. Then I'm also bringing in these little triangles that say today, and I'm alternating where they are. Like every other day has a today, and then I actually alternate it with a to-do. So today and to-do triangle thingies. So these triangles actually come from the Botanicals sticker book. So I used 2 sticker books for this spread, the Bookish and the Botanicals. I love the Botanicals sticker book so much. I've seen more than one person, like a couple of big YouTubers that I follow, mention that the flowers in the Botanicals book is a little too, like they're too realistic and they're kind of weird and they don't like the way they look. They don't like that style. I love that style. Like the style of the florals in the Botanical sticker book is so pretty. I love the detail. I love the muted colors and the like almost gothic vibe that they have. I love the Botanicals sticker book so much. So I put it into this spread. I think I put it in the last week's spread as well. Like any opportunity I have to bring in a little bit of the Botanicals sticker book, I will take it. So that's what's going on with this spread so far. And there wasn't a ton to plan. So basically the only recurring meeting that I almost always have in any given week is on Thursdays. So Thursdays are the days that my school does faculty meetings, department meetings, and like professional development activities and things like that. But once a month there is a meeting amongst people who like design and review curriculum, and those are just department heads. So I didn't have a meeting this week, which is wild because that meant that I had almost nothing to do this week. Nothing planned. No commitments, engagements, no meetings, no nothing, which is why I was just so inefficient this week because it was super easy to just get distracted or find myself going down a rabbit hole. Like I think Tuesday I spent a solid hour, maybe 2, looking through master's programs and teaching certificates, which was useful research but also just such a rabbit hole. I'm not even finished. I've barely brushed the surface of trying to decide what I want to do next with my education. So it was an interesting week, and I am excited to be back on campus next week because it will add more structure to my day. Like there's a point in the morning where I am expected to be on campus, and there's a point in the afternoon when I'm expected to leave. And that alone, just knowing that someone is going to be like not actively checking in, like I don't have to sign in, but someone would notice eventually if I wasn't there on time, is just so much more motivating and gives my day so much more structure. So I'm excited to be on campus next week. While I was outlining that, I did quickly pen in my YouTube videos for the week. So I had a plan with me go up on Monday, a unboxing go up on Wednesday, and then my 2021 reading goals go up on Friday, and it all actually happened. I have been on track so far this month. All of my videos that I have planned have gone up, and I mean, it's barely past the first week of the month, so that's not too much of an accomplishment, but like I'm pretty proud of it because those Friday videos, I tend to push them back a lot. So I'm on track so far, and I'm pretty happy about that. Then over on the sidebar, I decided to add a bit more layering. So I added this, like, I don't know what kind of flower that is. It's almost like a white daisy, but then it has these doodly pink elements in it, and I wanted to layer it with this book over on the sidebar just because I knew that I didn't need that whole length of a sidebar to put weekly tasks. In fact, most of what I track in that sidebar is just the books that I'm reading that week and rarely anything else. So I added a bit more decoration, and I really like the doodled line elements, those pink flowers, because I wanted to bring in a bit more pink. because pink was pretty prominent in the quote. The word you is written in pink. And in Sunday, there's a pink rose. And I didn't have enough pink going on here. Additionally, there's some white flowers in that best year ever sticker that's on Friday. So I thought that this style of sticker would be really good to pull in and like add some decoration while also tying in a bit more of those colors and elements. So I added one on the sidebar, and now I've got another one that I'm going to cut in half so that I can put part of it on Saturday and part of it on Thursday. And just for your reference, so far this video has been at 1 times speed. I am doing a voiceover, but I'm experimenting a little bit with having a voiceover in the same style that I usually have them, kind of stream of thought narration, but also a slower visual. Like I haven't time-lapsed anything, just as an experiment. I didn't want to do a talk-through video for this because I knew I didn't have any plans, so it was just me like putting down stickers. And I was also catching up on YouTube videos because I filmed this right after getting home from briefly visiting my boyfriend's family for Christmas. And so I really wanted to like just take some time to catch up on my YouTube videos and like the uploads that I had missed. There were so many because Vlogmas had happened, and I followed like 3 different channels that were doing Vlogmas and did not keep up with all of their videos. So there was a lot to catch up on, and I kind of wanted to take some time to plan quietly while listening to some YouTube videos. And so I didn't make this a talk through video, but I feel like the slower pace is a little more chill. Sometimes I'm watching my time-lapse videos and they're almost too fast, and it like makes me anxious to watch them. So I'm trying something different with this one. Let me know what you think about it if you've got any strong opinions. And the only big thing happening this week was that I was going back to work, and this 3-week period is called winter intensive. So I decided to letter that in, and my original plan was to letter it in on Monday in that space under today, but I did not space it out right. As you can see, the R went over the line. And so then I was like, okay, what do I do? Do I just keep it there and continue as planned with the R over it? Do I want to try to white something out? What do I do? And so I finally decided to just embrace it because yeah, the first day was on Monday, but like this whole week, you know, the intensive's kicking off, people are adjusting to slightly new schedules, and I don't know, I was like, you know what, let's just make this a whole banner. So I just kept lettering right across, and so I used this one font to write out the words winter intensive using all caps, the lines fairly thin, and then thickening the downstrokes but not filling it in. So it was this like faux brush letter style, but without actually coloring in the thicker parts. I don't know what this style is called or like how to describe it. It's not unique, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people use this style, but I don't know what you would call it. And then beneath that, using a thin monoline script, I letter in the word begins. So winter intensive begins this week. And it was just this big banner that marked the most important thing happening this week, which worked out. And afterwards, I really like how it looks. I think it's fun. I think it adds a new element to my spread since I don't usually write across multiple boxes. Even if I had decorations and stickers that overlap multiple boxes, my lettering almost never does. I stay within the days of when certain things are happening. So this was fun, and I think that it made that part of my spread much more interesting. And I really like the lettering itself. Like the way the words came out was very nice. And so I had a good time with that piece. And then I think the only other thing that I lettered in is on Tuesday, but I don't know when I'm actually going to go do that. Right now, I am adding this sticker on the weekend. It's just black and it says weekend vibes also in white. And I thought that was fun because I wanted to add a bit more towards that bottom part on the weekend. It was a little too empty, and I knew that I wasn't going to have a ton to put there. I've started to make my to-do list not day specific. So I put to-do lists on certain days, but what I write, just because I write something to do on Tuesday doesn't necessarily mean I will do it exactly on Tuesday. It's just there, and I kind of work through all my lists throughout the week. The only things that are day specific are things like the YouTube videos and appointments and deadlines and things like that. It is a style of planning that I learned about through Planning with Bumble on YouTube, and I've been experimenting with it the past 2 or 3 weeks. So far, so good. I am enjoying it, and that meant that even if I had like a ton of things to do this week and didn't do any of them, I had the whole week's worth of space to write them out so that I would also only write each task once, even if I didn't get to it on a particular day. And that meant that my weekend didn't need like all the space for a super long to-do list. So I added some more decoration there. And then at the very bottom, I am adding these clear floral strips for some extra decoration and a few more florals because they were in the quote boxes, but so far I've only brought in a touch of them with those white and pink flower stickers that I've added so far. So I wanted to add that as well, and I really liked how those came out. There were also so many of them. There are like 3 or 4 sets of these floral strips in the Botanicals sticker book. Alright, so here's the lettering I mentioned earlier on Tuesday, and I completely messed up. I wanted to mark that grades were due on Tuesday, and I just forgot the E. It says grads due, Grads. And my spread so far had been so pretty, and I had not messed up or not in a way that I couldn't fix, like with the word winter. And I didn't want to white out because the whiteout does show. Like the whiteout that I use at least has more of a yellowish cream tint. It's very white, but just a hair more yellow than this paper, which is a touch towards the gray end. And so it shows up a lot, and I was going to mess up the look of my spread even though the spelling was also a mess up. You know, like I chose to leave the misspelled word over adding the whiteout and just deciding to ignore it. And if you glance at it really quickly, you almost cannot tell that I spelled grads instead of grades. So it worked out. I accepted it and still really like the spread. I was annoyed. I don't know if it's visible on the video, but I did get some smudging when I was lettering Winter Intensive, and there's like a ghost of an R next to the first R because my hand, like as I was writing, I think the word begins, rubbed over the still drying ink, and so I also got ink in a few different places. Again, just trying not to pay attention to that because otherwise it's a super nice spread. So yeah, just don't pay attention to any smudges that you might see. And then over on Sunday, I marked that is when my boyfriend and I always celebrate our month anniversary on the 10th of the month, and that's when we make something fun or eat something special or go do something in non-COVID times. And this time we're having a lot of I'm like so excited. I'm filming this while things are still in the oven, but we are making hamburgers for dinner and cookies for dessert, and I am so excited because hamburgers or cheeseburgers really, because we put cheese on them, they're one of my favorite foods, and we don't make them all that often because they're kind of high effort, at least the way we make them. My boyfriend likes to make everything from scratch, including the hamburger buns, which is wild because they're so good, but they also take so much time, so we don't do it often, but we're doing it this week and I'm so excited. We are also making some pecan oatmeal, I think is what they're called, cookies, a recipe that he recently learned and really likes. And then we also found a recipe for homemade oatmeal cream pies by, like, you know, I don't know if you know, but like that brand Little Debbie's that has the pre-packaged cakes and like pastry things that you might put in a lunchbox. They have these really cool pastry treats that are like 2 oatmeal cookies with some frosting in the middle, and I love them. But also those kinds of snacks have a ton of sugar and I don't eat them all that often, and I like never buy them. But we're making some homemade, and that today's the first time we're going to make them, and I'm excited. So that was just like, that was a super, super long tangent. And if you did not care about my culinary experiments, I'll go back to the spread. So I'm using this stencil that I bought from a shop called Courtly Cuts on Etsy. And I have this one that has check marks with lines so that you can add lists. And I decided that while I wanted the guiding of the little squares for checklists, I liked so far how this spread was very light. Like sometimes I oversticker and like there's a lot happening, but I felt like so far I had managed to keep things pretty. There was like a lot of white space on this spread, and so I didn't want to add a lot of little boxes and lists and things to make it too cluttered. So I only traced the boxes and I only traced every other box so that there would be fewer spaces and just more room, really. And I really like how that came out too. I played around with a new lettering style that you can find on my Instagram page and probably also in one of my future videos when I flip back to this spread to show you how it looks all filled in. But basically, because I left myself more space per bullet point, I was able to get a little fancier with the writing than I usually do. And that came out really nicely, and all around, this is probably one of my favorite spreads ever. And I say that quite a bit. I like my spreads, they're fun, but this one is definitely high on the list. So I put this last set of check boxes over on Sunday, and then I decided to experiment even more. Because looking at this, those check boxes felt lonely and empty. And I was like, how else can I spice these up? And I decided to use a pink mild liner to color them in. Originally, I was going to color, I like kind of wanted to color them in black because everything else was black, but then I couldn't see the check marks over them. But I have this pink, it's not a mild liner, actually. This is an Erin Condren dual marker thing, but it was like the perfect color. It matched the pink in those doodle florals that I have used a couple of times throughout the spread, and so I thought that it would be really, really fun to color in the boxes with this pink to add a bit more color and life to those checklists without making it too hard to see and while still matching, and I loved it. This is one of my favorite spreads. So good. I loved using it this week and I had a lot of fun putting it together. So that basically, I think that's almost the only thing that I add. I think once I finish coloring this in, we will be wrapping up this video. So lots of fun this week, lots of fun both in making and using the spread and also in some of the things that I did this week. I don't know, I'm feeling extra chatty in this voiceover. So this was a fun video. I'm going to put this in my discs now so that you can see how it all looks all together. These are still the original discs that my planner came with. They're gold and I probably won't ever change them because I'm too lazy. Like, it takes a lot of time to rip and change out discs, and I'm also worried about moving pages too often. So this is how everything looks and how it will for a while. I like the gold discs. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!